Very good evening, viewers. Tonight is not the night to play into the hands of those who couldn't rise above the temptation of politics, narrow politics, and who couldn't bring themselves, therefore, to attend the inauguration or concede ground. Viewers, on a point of order, this is not just the inauguration of a structure, but it is the inauguration of a temple dedicated to our democracy, a new temple, a temple to democracy that we can truly call our own, made with the contributions of Indians born free, made by the hands of Indians that are today firmly in control of their own destiny, and designed by unfettered Indian minds that are a repository of not strictly Western ideas or sensibilities, but also Bharat's civilizational values. Today, viewers, we have truly gifted ourselves an Indian parliament, a parliament that will nurture democracy deep-rooted, hopefully, in our indigenous philosophical ideals and ethos. Today we begin a new tryst with a new destiny, a veritable Amrit Kal for democracy. In line with this larger sentiment, we must therefore resist dwelling on the narrow politics that we have witnessed in the last few days and also, viewers, in the past. The question is that while India deserves a new parliament, do our parliamentarians deserve this gleaming, exalted stage? That's the fundamental question we must ask ourselves tonight, viewers. On this occasion, that will perhaps come once again in 100 years. But first, let's listen to some excerpts of the Prime Minister's address, his speech, not just to the newly assembled Parliament, but also to India at large. A speech that sets the stage for our show tonight. Listen in.
भारत के संकल्प की दृढ़ता को, भारतवासियों की प्रखरता को, भारतीय जनशक्ति की जिजीविषा को आदर और उम्मीद के भाव से देख रहा है। जब भारत आगे बढ़ता है तो विश्व आगे बढ़ता है। संसद का ये नया भवन भारत के विकास से विश्व के विकास का भी आह्वान करेगा। एक ऐसा भी समय आ गया जब हम दूसरे देशों में हुए निर्माण को देखकर मुग्ध होने लग गए। अब गुलामी की उस सोच को पीछे छोड़ रहा है और संसद की ये नई इमारत इस प्रयास का जीवंत प्रतीक बनी है। इस भवन में विरासत भी है, वास्तु भी है, इसमें कला भी है, कौशल भी है, इसमें संस्कृति भी है और संविधान के स्वर भी है। कुछ देर पहले संसद की इस नई इमारत में पवित्र सेंगोल की भी स्थापना हुई है। महान चोल साम्राज्य में सेंगोल को कर्तव्य पथ का, सेवा पथ का, राष्ट्र पथ का प्रतीक माना जाता था। जब भी इस संसद भवन में कार्यवाही शुरू होगी, ये सेंगोल हम सभी को प्रेरणा देता रहेगा।
Now, viewers, as I said, we must ask ourselves a basic question. Yes, India deserves a new parliament. But do our parliamentarians deserve this gleaming, exalted stage? Have they done it justice? These are some fundamental questions, because at the end of the day, it is these questions that will determine how democracy actually functions and whether it delivers. Viewers, we have a very distinguished panel tonight, and I want to first begin with Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, who was undoubtedly there today to witness history in person. Dr. Trivedi, I don't want to focus for a length now on what has transpired, who was there, who wasn't there, why they weren't there, but I just want to ask you, why is everyone saying that this new House of Parliament has the potential to inaugurate a Amrit Kal for democracy? Why is there such optimism when unfortunately we haven't really done it justice in the way we have practiced parliamentary politics?
If you look at it, the new parliament is being inaugurated. It's a time frame in which India has become the 5th largest economy of the world, and incidentally, and I can say pleasantly, surpassing Britain, who has ruled us for more than 200 years. And not only that, we have become the 2nd biggest manufacturer of the mobile phone, 3rd biggest manufacturer of the automobile. We have marched way ahead in solar energy, and not only this, we have become the international center of the International Solar Alliance. So now, emergence of India, now we are having the presidentship of G20, which has happened for the first time. So emergence of India in the global scenario is now very clear and explicitly coming up with confidence. And not only this, if the democracy which was there for what to deliver, for the first time 48 crore people are having Jan Dhan account, 50 crore people are having the cover of Ayushman Bharat, and every village is having road, electricity, 12 crore houses are having the tap water. So whatever is to be delivered at the grassroots and whatever is to be delivered at the top, both has been done. And after 75th year of independence, which is called Amrit Kal, I think this is a long cherished ambition of our freedom fighters and visionary leaders of the freedom fight, which is going to be fructified. So obviously a new parliament should emerge, which symbolizing a new face of India. But I don't think that this was a matter on which the party politics or petty politics has to be seen. There will come several time and several incidences in future in which you can settle your political accounts, but there is certain decency. But one thing I would like to say, if opposition decides and the Congress party decides, has not come, so it means in the annals of history it will be written when the old parliament was inaugurated by Irwin, Motilal Nehru was present when this Parliament of Independent India in 21st century inaugurated, their descendants decided to refrain. So I think they have done a biggest injustice not only to the country but to their own party and to their own family.
Yeah, but Dr. Trivedi, that, look, as I said, I didn't want to begin by reducing this debate to an exercise in point scoring. What was said has been said, who came, who didn't go, why they didn't go, whether the government could have met them halfway, all that doesn't matter. Now, you said that we have grown to become an economic powerhouse, and I just want to ask you a follow-up question. Some countries that aren't truly democratic, or where parliament or whatever passes for it can't express the aspirations of the people, are also economic powerhouses, sir. So I want to ask you,
question is very relevant.
Who needs to take on now the mantle, sir, of, I don't know, there has been a rupture in the way we practice politics. Who takes on the mantle to heal, to ensure that we have a fully functional, not a dysfunctional parliament, sir?
Very appropriate question you have asked. If you look at the entire map of the world, in the entire Eastern Hemisphere, how many countries are the true, absolute, consistent, strong democracy? There are only 3-4 major countries: Japan, Australia, India, and South Korea. Even Japan and South Korea are having a constitutional monarchy. If you consider Australia practically as an extension of Europe. So in the entire Eastern Hemisphere, we are the only true, absolute, strong, vibrant democracy, and about 30% population who is under democracy. We constitute 16-17%. So we are the defenders of democracy. And democracy is not derived from the West. It is very much there in the ancient Indian ethos. Because if I ask you, can you name a single civilization in which allows discussion on the religious texts? It's only India. From the Vedic age, the Shastrat was there. So there was a benevolent attitude, having discussion with the Anubhav Mantapam of Bhagwan Vasavana in Karnataka, to the selection of the village committees by Chola Empire, to the Vaishalika Ganarajya, and several other things are there. That's why Prime Minister has said, we are the mother of democracy, we are biggest democracy, and we are the only symbol of true, vibrant, consistent democracy in the entire eastern part of globe.
Okay. Sudhindran Kulkarni has stated his case. Let me bring in also a public point of view, as well as a former member of parliament, and Sudhindra Kulkarni, who has seen also politics very closely. Mr. Kulkarni, let's focus on the larger picture tonight. And that picture is a somewhat discordant one from the seamlessness that we saw today of the ceremonies, etc. Parliament doesn't usually function as seamlessly as this. Now, I know that disruptions, debates, arguments are all part and parcel of the parliamentary process, but something more has happened over the last decade and a half, specifically when the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, assumed office from 2014. And the BJP will tell you that it's because the opposition today has reduced politics to really transactionalism. Is that really what has happened? That's why we're seeing this dysfunction in our house?
Rahul ji, with due respect to you, I would like to object to the way you have constructed the topic of this debate, okay, whereby you say that you ask whether some section of Parliament who have decided to protest against the fact that it's not the President but the Prime Minister who is inaugurated the new Parliament, do they deserve this Parliament? That is how you put it.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
No,
I am talking in, I made it very clear, sir, that I also said, could the government have walked halfway to salvage a situation? Should it be walking halfway? And I've said, let me just, do our parliamentarians as a whole, whether they're in the Treasury benches or in the opposition benches, deserve this gleaming, exalted stage?
That's very good. Your clarification is most welcome, because
on this occasion, sir, I wouldn't play a partisan role.
Which means that even the leader of the House, that's the Lok Sabha, deserves this new Parliament. That is the extension of your question, and I really congratulate you for reframing the question. But anyway,
no, I had always framed it like this.
This debate really was not needed at all, because the issue is so clear. Who should inaugurate the Parliament?
But sir, I don't want to go there tonight.
No, that is really because today the fact
this
that
is only this particular question is only arising because we have a broken democracy. Now, why is it broken? I'm not talking about, viewers, a democratic recession. No, I'm talking about the relationship in a very narrow context between the Treasury benches and the opposition. Yeah. Why has it come to this?
No, if you allow me to
please
put across my points in an uninterrupted way.
Of course.
I would like to say that this debate was really not necessary if every section of Parliament had participated in this historic occasion of inauguration of Parliament, new Parliament. But why has it not happened? Because a section of the political establishment has rightly objected to the fact that it is not inaugurated by the President of India but the Prime Minister of India. Now, what does the Constitution say? When Narendra Modi ji became Prime Minister, he said that for me, the Constitution of India is a holy book. It's the only scripture. Now, what does the Constitution say? Article 79 of the Constitution clearly states that the Parliament consists of the President, President of the nation, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. In the warrant of precedence, or the order of precedence, the President and the Vice President come, the Prime Minister comes later. In every occasion when the budget session opens, the Prime Minister walks behind the President and the Vice President and even the Lok Sabha Speaker. So the procedure, the protocol is absolutely clear. Now, for a Prime Minister who says that the Constitution is a holy book for him, why has he violated? Have we already entered a presidential system of government where the Prime Minister is the President? When the Bhumi Pujan of the new building happened, again, Ramnath Kovind ji was not invited. Venkaiah Naidu ji was not invited. So if you see the plaque that has been installed there, only Narendra Modi's name appears. Similarly, today also, the history will record that the inauguration happened by Narendra Modi in the absence of the President and the Vice President. Is it respect to the Constitution of India? This is a real question. But coming to the point of dysfunction of Parliament, you see, we have seen in the last 9 years, parliamentary debate has lost its relevance. Has lost its relevance. The Prime Minister himself hardly attends parliamentary session. Even budget is often passed without any debate. Many important bills are passed without any debate. We call ourselves the mother of democracy. Is this how a vibrant democracy ought to function? So this is a question that all sections of the political establishment have to ask themselves, especially the ruling party. And also,
the onus you're
the
saying
people
lies,
of India have to ask themselves this question.
Okay, so the onus lies with the government of the day. That's what you're saying.
Mostly.
Okay. Doctor, you please, Dr. Trivedi,
one
respond.
thing I would like to clarify to our learned friend Kulkarni ji. Sir, there is a distinct difference between the constitutional event and the public ceremonial event. Yes, you are correct that the Constitution says when the Parliament will prorogue, it can only be prorogued by the order of the President. And then according to the procedures laid down in Constitution, the Parliament will sit and work. But this is not the Parliament session which is being called. It is just a building of the new Parliament which is being inaugurated. So it's a matter of executive. The construction of building is not the constitutional matter, it is a matter of executive. The completion of building is the matter of executive. So obviously the inauguration of the building is the matter of executive, and if somebody is having any objection, that I would like to ask, in the inauguration of the Chhattisgarh Vidhan Sabha, when Sonia Gandhi was just a member of parliament, that too not from that state, and her name and Rahul Gandhi's name were over and above the Chief Minister and the Governor, and from Mizoram and various examples, and from inauguration of the Parliament Library, forget about that. But one thing I want to make technically very clear, it is a public ceremony, it's not a constitutional function. And finally, in the last 9 years, sir, we have seen a very unprecedented event when a CAA, an Act of Parliament, has been passed, and various state assemblies have passed their act denouncing the Parliament. Can, sir, you quote a single instance in the entire history? It is constitutional that an act passed by Parliament can be, and states can pass against that, and particularly when it is related to citizenship. States have nothing to do with citizenship. So I think in the last 9 years, just I would like to say, after the time of independence, when the kings and feudal lords lost their power and the democracy was emerging, so there was an unrest. So in the same manner, one particular type of thought process in the intellectual establishment to political establishments of India was considering that they will remain forever like kingship. Now when the true democracy is emerging, so they were unable to understand or adjust with the changing scenario and the changing wishes of the people of India.
Okay, just half a minute.
Yeah,
because I want to clarify learned parliamentarian and my dear friend Trivedi ji said that this has nothing to do with ceremonial
No, this is
occasions.
a public ceremonial event.
This is a public ceremonial event, especially because of this. If you kindly read the order of precedence, it clearly says that official functions, official ceremonial functions, the order is President first, Vice President second, the Prime Minister third.
Okay, so
the question can be raised कि 15th August में क्यों नहीं होते राष्ट्रपति? There is no logic about it, sir. 15th August is also an official and the biggest ceremonial function.
Read Article 79
well, see,
of the Constitution.
Viewers, now, you see, this is the trap that I didn't want to fall in. Because we have been debating this night after night ad nauseum. And I can already see Pavant Verma ji looking at his watch, saying, this is not the direction in which we wanted to take this. Dr. Ranganathan is also wryly smiling there because he realizes where the problem is. So let's pull back, viewers. Let's address the main question. And I want to first begin with Pavant Verma ji. He's been a member of parliament. Dr. Ranganathan, I'll just come out to you right after that. I'm sorry to keep everyone waiting. Mr. Verma, look, let's go back to the fundamental proposition that I placed before us all. What is going to rescue the broken wings of parliamentary democracy? I'm not talking about democracy as it exists in this country because I think it's robust, but in the House where the aspirations of the people are supposed to be voiced, there is a problem. Now, how do we address this to ensure that this new momentous inauguration is not a lost opportunity?
Thank you, Rahul. I'm glad you included us in the debate finally. You know, I want to sum up in my answer to your question by one word, and that's called trust. You see, democracy functions on the basis of the right to voice legitimate differences, assuming that both sides of the political spectrum are essentially bound by a trust factor where bona fides of either are not in doubt. Now, what has happened? There's too much of an echo, Rahul, if you could tell your producers.
Okay, we'll just fine-tune that.
So what has happened is that today the level of acrimony and the level of mistrust between the Treasury benches and the opposition has reached a level where, frankly, every issue becomes a matter of political breakdown. Now, as far as the new building of Parliament is concerned, and I will link it with the larger question, I think it is an important, momentous, pivotal occasion that we have given to ourselves a Parliament building which is more commensurate with our needs and in the present and in the future. That debate is over. We have built a new Parliament. I think that because of the lack of trust, the fact that the inauguration of this building, which in my view, I agree with Sudhindra ji, Article 79 is explicit, for a Parliament which belongs to all people of India, irrespective of political affiliations, and stands as the temple of democracy of the world's largest democracy, I think it would have been appropriate, even magnanimous, for the Prime Minister to say that I may have built this new Parliament as the head of my government in my executive capacity, but in terms of our constitution and in terms of the ceremonial legitimacy of the first citizen of the nation, who is also the head of parliament, we will have the president inaugurated. In normal circumstances, perhaps the fact that the precedent has been ignored may have also been not become such a big issue. But today we have a point of lack of trust between the opposition and the parliament. Now, second question. I frankly, in my own view, I do not agree that the opposition, while protesting the inauguration, should have boycotted it. This is a personal viewpoint. I think that they could have made their point of view clear through a joint press conference or a joint statement. But I think boycotting Parliament is in a way showing disrespect not for the current government, or rather contempt for the current government, or hostility or opposition to the current government. It is showing disrespect to that institution which essentially governs our polity, which is a democratic parliament. So I think the opposition could have participated even under protest, but should not have abdicated, and incidentally, even politically, it has also shown the divisions within the opposition, with several parties beyond the predictable ones also not joining with the opposition, such as the Akali Dal and the BSP. Now lastly, I'll just sum it up quickly in 20 seconds. You see, Parliament runs by the cooperation between the Treasury and the opposition, with neutral presiding officers. If there is a perception, and this is not new, if there is a perception that Treasury benches or the government which enjoys an absolute majority is steamrolling its way to passing legislation or preventing discussion on issues which the opposition considers to be a priority, it will lead to irremediable acrimony. And I can give one example. For instance, the manner in which the Farm Law Bill was passed in the Raj Sabha. I've been a member of that house. I think it was a demonstration of a government which had a majority or a conjured majority in the Raj Sabha, just steamrolling the valid points raised by the opposition to pass a bill. This is just one example. Many others can be given. This is not the occasion. But there must be this feeling that if the opposition raises a question, there should be a debate. Equally, I must say, the opposition must realize that the way to voice their dissent is not to make it look as if Parliament is an akhada where people can go into the well of the house, tear up papers, throw them at the speaker. This is not the way we showcase our democracy. As I have said before, in its entire history, the House of Commons has not been adjourned for a single day. And now we are going to be a situation where there is not a single day when our Parliament is not adjourned. So it requires maturity on both sides, and certainly a greater sensitivity by the Treasury benches, because ultimately Parliament runs the House. Ultimately Parliament runs the House. The Treasury benches run the House. They have the responsibility. That used to be the BJP's argument against the Congress during UPA rule. So I think a bit of accommodation, a bit of understanding, a bit of political maturity, a bit of demonstration of trust is what this new parliament building must inaugurate, apart from concrete and space.
Yes, we can obviously, in the second round, when I come back to Dr. Trivedi, ask him who should be primarily responsible. Which side? Is it only the responsibility of one or both, or primarily one and lesser the other? But Dr. Ranganathan, a citizen's point of view tonight from you.
Hi, Rahul, and it's wonderful to be on this program. And I think you're a bit of fast becoming a dinosaur, because these kinds of well-structured, congenial debates are simply not on in television. What are you doing, Rahul? What a wonderful debate we're having, and absolutely, it's an honor to be a part of this panel.
Thank you.
I have two broad points to make, Rahul, and I think both of them go to the nub of the issue that you've raised. Number one, and as you said, this is a citizen's point of view, and I truly feel it. And I also want to use this phrase time and again in the time that I have, कि ये public है, ये सब जानती है, क्योंकि यही सच है. You know, the fact of the matter is that both the BJP and the opposition would like to tell the public that they are 100% in the right. जो वो कह रहे हैं वो सच है, पर ऐसी बात नहीं है. जो पब्लिक जानती है वो सच है, और मैं वो बताना चाहता हूं, because according to the Congress that is opposing this, boycotting it, the fact remains that it was because the Congress wanted a new parliament that the whole thing went into motion. Mr. Jairam Ramesh is on record saying that we need a new parliament house because the old one is arcane and crumbling down. It is the Congress who, from prime ministers down to their chief ministers, have been inaugurating all sorts of things that should ideally have been inaugurated by either the presidents or should have been inaugurated by the governors. The latest example being Sonia Gandhi laying the foundation stone of something where the governor wasn't even invited. So there's hypocrisy there. The third one is for Congress to say that we are boycotting this and also saying Hindutva is being brought in because of the Sengal is again outrageous. What was outrageous is that Sengal was being used and portrayed as Nehruji's walking stick. Nothing can be more egregious to the nation than that. As far as the BJP saying that we are 100% in the right, I'm sorry, that's not the case at all. The BJP should have asked and insisted that the president, I've said it again, inaugurate this. For them to quote Indira Gandhi, that too, the act that she committed, inaugurated something and not the president did, was during the emergency, is something that you really don't want to replicate or propagate that, look, Indira Gandhi did it, so we are doing it, number one. Number two, I don't know why, but maybe this is the sense that politicians have. They always go for Pyrrhic victories. Now, you see my good friend, Dr. Sudhanshuji, who is such a learned person, exclaimed that we have now beaten UK in terms of GDP. Well, what matters, sir, is not GDP per capita, and there we are just $2,000 and the UK is $45,000. We were $800 in 2008. So it's taken us 15 years to more than double our thing. So we are miles behind UK because that is the reality. So let us not go for Pyrrhic victories. But now let me come, Rahul, to the real nub of the issue, because as you rightly put it, why are opposition and the government at loggerheads? And we really have to explain it. And if you permit my saying so, because as a member of the public, I'm sorry, I'm blunt at times, but one can either be blunt by one's utterances or by the nature of one's voting. And both BJP and the Congress have felt the bluntness in Gujarat as well as in Karnataka recently. So yes, the public is blunt because the public needs to be. So now let me, in 1 minute that I have, tell you the real nub of the issue. And Rahul, the tragedy of this nation is that while we are cursed with the kind of opposition we have, the BJP is blessed with it. Every single decision of the BJP that is in national interest is opposed by the opposition. And every single decision of the BJP that is against the national interest is supported by the opposition. Now, there is no doubt that the Modi government has done some great work in the last 9 years that is in national interest. But the opposition has, far from praising it, outraged on it. Like the Balakot strike, the OROP, Swachh Bharat, millions of toilets, Ujjwala, crores of gas cylinders, Ayushman Bharat, Rafale, CAE, 370, COVID vaccines, all these have been opposed and outraged upon by the opposition. While all the decisions of the BJP that are against national interest, the opposition supports. Let me explain this. Number one, we have 1,830 public sector units. Quarter of them are non-functional. A fifth of our annual budgetary allocation of 30 lakh, 40 lakh crores goes in propping up sick PSUs. Except Air India, there has been zero privatization. The PSUs that are sold are bought by other PSUs. But who objects to them being sold? Yes, the opposition. Number two, nationalized banks are rife with corruption and have NPAs totaling 7 lakh crores. But who objects to their privatization? Yes, the opposition. Three, There is no incentive for private companies to set up shops because of zero land reforms. But who blocked the land acquisition bill? Yes, the opposition. 4. Average state debt to GSDP is 35%, highest in 15 years, Rahul. But who supports loan waivers and freebies? Who reverted to the catastrophic old pension scheme that will bankrupt our states? Yes, the opposition. 5. Modi's BJP was convicted of financial fraud through violating FCRA. But who supported Modi's retrospective amendment of the FCRA, thereby nullifying the court conviction? Yes, the opposition. And finally, 6, and this is so painful. Agriculture contributes to only 12.5% to our GDP, and yet 44% of our 500 million strong labor force is involved in it. In the West, it is 2%. Production to purchase the entire chain is archaic, almost medieval. But who objected to the farm reforms? Yes, the opposition. And who supported the anti-farmer move of Modi to repeal farm reforms? Yes, the opposition. 30 seconds, Rahul. Sadly, we will never leapfrog because we don't have governments that think of national interest. We are a welfare state banking on socialism, not capitalism. I repeat, our frog doesn't leap. It remains in the well and keeps croaking that one day it will leap, one day it will leap, but that well remains either outside or in the house of the parliament.
Okay. Well, Dr. Ranganathan, I'm going to ask everyone after we just get some reactions to what has been said about what is the first bill that they would like to see passed by this new gleaming parliament. That's a question that is a quick fire, rapid fire question, so please do think about that. And to your point, no, I'm not a dinosaur, just aging. I finally acquired some grey matter, pun intended, where it matters. So I just want to bring in Dr. Trivedi. Dr. Trivedi, Parliament is supposed to be a forum, obviously, to pass legislation, to better the lives of people, but it's also a forum for accountability at the end of the day. And if you hear some of our speakers, they say that it stops serving that purpose because of the way a session sometimes is conducted by the Treasury benches. Do you think that you've done a good job of advancing the cause of accountability?
2 examples that will make a picture clear about the accountability. So much thing has been talked about the farm laws. They said when the farm law was passed, then they were asking for discussion. We were ready for discussion, but the opposition was saying no discussion. They should be repealed and withdrawn immediately without discussion. Okay, for 2 sessions have gone, and with due respect to Pavant Verma ji and Kulkarni ji, I would like to say, can they ever quote a single instance in the entire parliamentary history of India when in Rajya Sabha the people were standing on the table and then throwing things on the chair and the mics were thrown? This has been incidences in several state assemblies. And then you say that the entire onus lies on the government. Okay. They were saying their clear demand was no discussion, immediate withdrawal. When Prime Minister announced we are withdrawing that, then they were creating acrimonious scene. Why there is no discussion? Why they are withdrawing without discussion? That makes the picture very clear that you can have trust. He has said very thing. Trust can be with truth, but trust cannot be with a schizophrenic agenda type of thing when you want to create a mistrust in everything. Forget about parliament and the government. When on surgical strike, mistrust over the army. Balakot strike, distrust over the Air Force. Then on the issue of this quarter, SBI has recorded 18,000 crore rupees in the last quarter, which is highest. Distrust over SBI, distrust over IMF, distrust over SEBI, distrust over everything. And latest example, sir, distrust over EVM, distrust over Election Commission, distrust over democracy, and now they have won Karnataka. Now the EVM is okay, now the Election Commission is okay. When there were 2 judgments which they said that came in the favor of them in Supreme Court, then it's okay, otherwise distrust over Supreme Court. तो एक कहावत होती है उर्दू में कि इसमें क्या रखा है देखे है जो तू आन के पास, बदगुमा वहम की दारू नहीं लुकमान के पास. Means you can have a remedy for everything, but if somebody is living in illusion and he doesn't want to see the reality, then there cannot be anything which can satisfy them or which can provide them a proper thing. And one more thing on the issue of probity, sir. Kerala, there is a so-called Kala Kanun is there in Kerala. But neither the communists raised the issue nor the Congress raised the issue here. There is no Mandi Act in Kerala. But here they say that everything has happened. So what I want to say, the onus lies, I say honestly, onus lies on every party The bigger parties have bigger onus responsibility. The ruling party has the maximum responsibility. But it cannot be you can make the sentence that one fish can spoil a pond, and in the same class one student who is hell-bent upon to creating a ruckus in class can create a thing. And also to Anand Ranganathan ji, I would like to say, he has said that the paying power, he was to say per capita. Sir, it's also taken as a purchasing power parity. I would like to say, in one bottle of water in US have a $1.50. Here it's not 120 rupees or 150 rupees, it's $10. In India, you can have a breakfast in 50 or 60 rupees.
10
but
rupees.
US, you
not
can,
$10. 10 rupees in India.
10 rupees in India. You cannot have a in 0.8 cents. And you can have a breakfast in 50, 60 rupees, but can you think of having a breakfast in US in 50 cents? Here you can have even free breakfast also. In the mandirs, bhandara, and the gurdwaras, langar, where you cannot imagine at all in US. So there are some certain things when you talk about economy and other things we have to take into. I agree to him what he said. But when we strictly try to judge India with the foreign parameters, then there are several things which is to be taken care of.
Okay, well, I've had several people raising their hands, and I'll go in the order of people who raised their hands. Sudhindra Kulkarni, disruption is a handmaiden of democracy. Some tall BJP leaders said this when they were in the opposition. Today, or at least then, the Treasury benches, the UPA said, no, this is anarchy. And we know the episode. Now some of those who were in the Treasury benches find themselves in the opposition, and they are resorting to disruption. And why am I pointing this out to you? Because Dr. Trivedi talked about schizophrenia, political schizophrenia. Can we just discount that?
Good question, but if you allow me, I'll just want to agree with something that Trivedi ji said, and I'm doing so to further the consensus that is emerging in this panel discussion on several issues. It was absolutely wrong on the part of the Congress government in Chhattisgarh, to get Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi to inaugurate the new Vidhan Sabha building. That is not how you respect the Constitution, you respect the protocols and the procedures of the Constitution. And therefore, there is a degree of hypocrisy in the way the Congress is now opposing, and of course in this case it is right, the fact that it's the Prime Minister and not the President of India that's inaugurating the new Parliament building. Having said this, your question is very valid. What is happening is that the people say one thing when they are in the opposition, and they do exactly the opposite when they are in the ruling party. You mentioned a very honorable member of the BJP who said disruption actually promotes democracy, and it was none other than the former law minister who became the law minister later. But now that the BJP is in office, it objects to disruption. Ideally, there should be no disruption at all of the kind that's happening.
But on the boycott question,
yes,
Kulkarni Sahab, the opposition has been quite consistent. You were part of the ruling establishment in NDA 1, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji's government, and the opposition boycotted a minister for days on end. George Fernandez Sahab was. There was almost a very sad situation there. Yeah. I'm sure you probably at that time also objected to it.
Of course, and the manner in which allegations were leveled against George Fernandez was most unfortunate, and he actually came out innocent, guilt-free later on.
Yeah.
This is the point I'm making. That
so don't be opportunistic. Be opposition.
We should not be opportunistic.
Okay.
We should not be hypocritical.
Okay, I want to bring in, yes, very quick, sir. I want to bring in Pavant and also.
He's saying that our senior leaders have said that disruption is a way of democracy. Yes. But there is to be a distinction, like we are discussing. The ideal thing is that one person is speaking, other should not speak. But if somebody thinks that that thing is wrong or other can speak in between, that is one sort of disruption. Another disruption, a person stands on here, thumping their leg and throwing the book on you, on the anchor. Then you say, oh, no, you have said that if you are thinking disruption, it's the same disruption. So that's why I have said this was not disruption, this was an acrimonious.
I'm running out of time. The last 2 minutes are left. Pavanji, quick, and Dr. Anand right after. Yes.
Very quickly, Rahul. You see, we are caught in a vicious circle. The vicious circle is that when in opposition, as has been pointed out, tall democratic leaders of the BJP, like Arun Jaitley and Sushma Swaraj, provided an ideological justification of the undemocratic disruption of parliament. Sudhanshu ji's splitting of hairs that we did this but they do this, it doesn't matter. It established us, gave us legitimacy to a certain precedent. Today when the Congress is in opposition, it is probably following the same principle. And I am saying to you that the time has come to short circuit this entire breakdown of trust. Now it requires wisdom, generosity, leadership and maturity, especially from the Treasury benches.
Okay, also especially from the Treasury benches. Dr. Ranganathan, the ball is coming back into the court of the Treasury benches.
Let me just finish. I'll take 10 seconds. 10 seconds. 10 seconds only. You see, the other thing, Rahul, is, Anand, please forgive me for this.
Please take your time.
That when you have so much of mistrust in the public domain, you know, with the opposition feeling they are being targeted by all the government agencies and all the attacks, then it gets reflected in parliament. And the approach becomes कि उसी का शहर, वही मुद्दई, वही मुंसिफ. मुझे मालूम था कि मेरा कसूर निकलेगा. I mean, it is your parliament of which you are the leaders.
It's our parliament, and these are our representatives. Hanji, please.
आपने कहा तो मैं भी एक कह देना चाहता हूं, जो काम कर रहा है अपोजिशन कि कागज का है लिबास, चिरागों का शहर है, चलना संभल के चूंकि तुम नशे में हो.
Okay, well, Dr. Ranganathan, quick, please. I'm running out of time. My director is Sharif Bhai is telling me I'm now being too dinosaurish.
No, Rahul, just to answer that question that you said, we'll go around the panel. To answer that first, as to what should be the first decision of politicians or the government in this new parliament, it should be abrogation of the Places of Worship Act.
Okay, well,
that should be the case.
Look, viewers, that's another game, but we don't want to play that right now because we've run out of time. So we have to call time on this debate. I think we've had a fairly constructive debate. I would really have liked to come out with a solution as to how to rebuild that trust and perhaps take a more bipartisan position on who should be directing that exercise. Should it be perhaps both sides? I think, viewers, we will have to look at that very quickly. Sudhanshu ji, कौन सा पहला बिल लाना चाहिए इस घर में, this new house?
वक्त आने पे बता देंगे तुझे आसमां, हम अभी से क्या बता दें जो हमारे लिए.
Okay.
The first bill is to bring more and more consensus and make it truly a temple of democracy.
Okay, I don't know what that bill will be called.
Okay. The single should be accepted by everybody as Rajdand.
Okay. Very quickly, Pavant Verma, very quickly. First bill.
Last. I don't care what the bill is. I want a proper discussion in the House of Parliament.
Okay, wonderful. Let's have a bill to that. Maybe some sort of a time-bound, written in stone debate suggestion. Well, there are provisions, viewers. We just have to open the book and adhere to them. I leave it at this, viewers. I leave it at this. Thank you very much for watching tonight.